everybody, Mike Iaconelli here doing a Tackle Warehouse recap video on the last BASS regular season event up on the St. Lawrence River in upstate New York. Man, I know you watched some of it. I know you watched live and you saw the results. Thousand Islands is probably the best smallmouth fishery on the planet right now, and we really caught a lot of big fish. I had over 60 pounds of smallmouths in 3 days and finished in the 20s. Had a really good tournament, and I'm going to advance on to the Bassmasters Classic this year. I basically caught all my fish on 2 different setups during the week, and I want to talk to you about both of them. You know, the first one is drop shot. When fish get deep, and a lot of those smallmouths were in their summertime pattern, they were 20 to 40 foot deep. And when they get deep, nothing beats a drop shot. But my setup was a little unique, and I rigged the bait a little different, and I want to show you that stuff. You know, the first thing that I used, unlike what a lot of guys do, is I actually used a micro swivel. This is a VMC 00 swivel, 00 swivel. And it's so small that that swivel could actually pass through the guides if you needed it to. But I use that little swivel as a connection between my braid and my fluorocarbon. And one of the main reasons I do that is it really helps reduce line twists when you're drifting in current or you're fishing in deep water like we were. It's a great little tool. With line, I used a line by Fireline that is an unbelievable light braid if you're a spinning rod, a finesse guy. I used Fireline by Berkley, the Super 8 Fireline. And it's 8 carrier line. It's smooth, it's abrasion resistant, it's soft, it casts amazing. And I used it in 10-pound tests. On the other side, I used a 8-pound Berkley 100% fluorocarbon leader. The smallmouths weren't super picky, so you could get away with 8-pound tests. Never broke a fish off the whole week, even with a lot of zebra mussels. The hook and the weight, on the hook, I used, honestly, one of my favorite new hooks when I'm drop shotting. And you saw me talk about it at iCast. This is the brand new VMC Neko Finesse hook. And the Neko Finesse is just a real nice little straight shank hook. And it's got a little fluorocarbon keeper barb right up near the eye, and that's going to help keep that bait locked in. I'm going to show you that in a second. I use that VMC Finesse Neko in a size number 2, which is a perfect size for a 4.5 inch bait. And then finally, about a 18-20 inch leader with a 3/8 or ½ ounce VMC tungsten pencil weight. And that's a great weight for keeping that bait on the bottom, and you feel everything as it drags along the bottom. Okay, so there's the setup. Fished it 20 to 25 foot behind high spots. And it could have been a point, it could have been a hump, a rise, and really used the current to drag it. But here was the key part to this drop shot rig that I want to tell you about, and it was the bait. And I'm a big believer in this stuff for smallmouths. And I used Berkley Powerbait Maxscent, and I used it in 2 different shapes. I used it in a small little 4-inch shape called a flatworm, and I used that in straight green pumpkin. But the bait that I caught a lot of my fish on was a Berkley Powerbait Max shape called a hitworm. And I used that in watermelon candy, and the hitworm is 4.5 inches long. But now here's the magic, and I want to show you this and why this VMC Finesse Neko is so good. A lot of guys, when you drop shot, you think about nose hooking the bait like that. You think about wacky rigging it, taking the bait and hooking in the middle. And those 2 hooking methods are good. But this week, when I got a bite, 99% of the time, I landed it. And here's what I did with that little number 2 VMC Finesse Neko hook, is I got that Berkley Powerbait Maxscent hitworm, and I threaded it on there. It's just like if you were using a night crawler and you were walleye fishing. I threaded it on there, and I pulled it up, and I make sure that bait lays nice and straight. And there's what you end up with. And I don't even have to describe it. You could get the feeling for what that hook does. That hook keeps the bait straight out. That little fluorocarbon keeper barb keeps the bait from sliding, so you never lose the bait. And look at it, half the bait is all hook. And when that fish eats it, you got him. 99.9% of the time, when you hook them with that Finesse Neko by VMC, you get them in the boat. Really, really key part of the system was how I threaded it. The Berkley Powerbait Maxscent hitworm, the Berkley Powerbait Max flatworm, that caught 80% of my fish last week. Real quick on the rod and reel, I fished it on the Abu Garcia 610 medium light finesse rod, and that's a rod I designed for drop shotting. And if you look at the reel, you know that reel. It's the Abu Garcia Ike Revo in the 20 size, and that was the perfect match for this drop shot setup. 80% of the fish I caught that week came on that setup. But every day, I would catch one big one 4 to 5 pound smallmouth. And I wasn't getting as many bites, but I did want to mention this. The second bait I used at the Thousand Islands, and I caught some really big ones during the week, was this brand new little setup from VMC, and it's called a Tokyo rig. You know, the Tokyo rig, people know it as a punch shot bait for largemouth, fishing around grass and wood, but it is great to drag it along the bottom for smallmouth. A lot of rock, a lot of current. This thing was perfect. If you look at the setup, this is a VMC Tokyo rig in the 2-aught hook size. It comes with that open wire. To that wire, I put a 3/4 ounce tungsten weight. And if you look at it, here's the key part, is the bait. And you could use any style of bait you want. A tube, a creature, a worm, a beaver. But I went with this brand new, this is a Berkley Powerbait shape called a Jester. And this Jester fits the 2-aught hook perfectly. And if you look at it, it's got a ton of action with those tails. I would cast it out, I would let the current drift me, and I would sort of drag it and pull it like a Carolina rig or like a wobblehead. And every day I caught some real hammers on that Tokyo rig. Rod and reel, I fished it on a 7.2 Abu Garcia Ike Power Series rod. It's a medium heavy. And I used a Abu Garcia MGX Premier, and I used it in an 8-0-1. And then finally on the line, I just fished it on 15 pound, straight 100% Berkley fluorocarbon. And definitely 20% of the fish I weighed in every day came on that setup. Listen to me, try those tips, try those baits if you're around smallmouth. I guarantee you're going to catch some real big ones. Mike Iaconelli, Tackle Warehouse recap for Thousand Islands.